Well, we're definitely looking forward for our next home game. There's a lot of things we need to work on that you learn from your first game, especially when it doesn't go the way you want and you lose the football game. So that's what the majority of our time has been spent on the last 3 days is making sure that we get a lot of mistakes corrected, get a little bit better at the small things, really work on our fundamentals and techniques of everything we're doing, reevaluate all the decisions we made and what we could have done to get better, and that's the key, is coming out and getting better. And we're going to play an Indiana State team coming off a victory at home that we've got to start to do all the small things correctly, play as hard as we can on every play, and try to come out with a victory.
Go ahead, DJ.
Yeah, Coach, obviously you get a chance to look at the film, see some of those mishaps, things that you talked about in terms of fundamentals, like penalties, missed tackles. I guess what are some of the key focuses this week in practice and kind of honing in on those things and making sure that they get cleaned up here for week 2?
Well, and that's what we've done. Anytime we had a really good year last year as far as not having a lot of penalties, winning the turnover battle. We had some really just silly penalties that cost us. It wasn't anything outlandish, but 2 illegal alignments on offense, just receivers not getting lined up on the ball, which were silly. They can't happen. The chop block was costly. Where really our running back made a good block, there was a twist happening. Our O-lineman happened to just touch the other guy, so we're just going to have to eliminate running backs cutting at all because it kind of just fell into it, and it was a costly penalty. And then I think we had a delayed game. And then really, other than that, we had a lot of penalties on defense, which can't happen. Way too many penalties on defense, way too many holding calls in the secondary got called on us in key situations. So we've got to clean up the ability to play physical, but yet use our hands properly and make sure that we're obeying the rules. So those were some costly penalties. We had a silly offsides from a secondary player that I know he wasn't trying to do that, but he was offsides. That was costly. So really just some costly penalties that when you play a good football team, you can't have happen. So we just got to concentrate, identify what those penalties are, which I think we have, and try to get those fixed.
Is there an update on Rob Thompson? You said he was nicked up a little bit after Penn State. Is there any concern for him heading into this week?
Well, Brock was nicked up, and we'll keep evaluating this week. I'm hopeful that he'll be ready to play, but we'll know later in the week.
And then in terms of just the wide receiver group as a whole, you go into the season obviously stressing that there's a lot of guys that can contribute to this offense, but maybe haven't been able to do it specifically in this system due to maybe a lack of experience. Charlie Jones was a guy to step up, obviously, but after watching some film, were there any other guys that kind of caught your eye in terms of maybe solidifying themselves as maybe a number 2 option for Aiden in this offense?
Well, I think that's still a work in progress. A lot of our receivers have been banged up in the offseason up until now. You'd like to get a few guys to step up and be that second guy for the most part. Charlie really played well. That was a really good game for him. We've got to find ways to get Taiwan Tracy the ball a little bit more in many different ways. So that's something we could have done better. Rashawn Rice, who hadn't practiced a whole lot, was able to do a couple of good things. We've got to try to get as much out of him as we can. He's got to continue to get better. TJ Sheffield did some good things, and then he had a couple things that we obviously like to do better. So we just got to get consistency. And then there's some other receivers right there on the cusp that got a little bit of action, but maybe just didn't get the ball. So you've got to be able to spread the ball around to more guys and utilize those on offense.
Jeff, just on the vein of receivers, 19 targets for Charlie it seems like a lot. I mean, just speak to his workload and how you see that moving forward. Was that too many targets, and how do you see that, I guess, moving forward?
Well, I think we always want to spread the ball around as much as we can. At the same time, if the receiver's hot and there's a connection, we're not going to take that away. And there were quite a few plays made between Aiden and Charlie. But yeah, we'd like to have a little more balance across the board in a perfect world. But David Bell had a lot of targets in certain games as well. So continuing to work on our quarterback having confidence in the entire receiving core is important, and making sure that we continue to improve upon that.
Also, just tackling, Jeff. I know there's always the fear of getting guys hurt, and there were some issues with that Thursday night. How do you go about improving the tackling while still being able to manage the health of the team moving forward?
Well, we've looked and analyzed everything on defense, and there were some key moments where the tackling could have been better. I don't think it was a problem throughout the entire game on a lot of plays, but there were key plays, about 5, that we could have tackled way better. And we've addressed that. We've worked on it even this weekend. We'll continue to work on it. The ability for everybody to tackle the proper way. We've had multiple drills on it, using our arms. I thought we tried to shoulder tackle. I thought we didn't finish as much as we can to make sure someone got to the ground. And really, defensively, the 2-minute drive at the end of the half was costly when they only had about 25 seconds on the minus 18-yard line. That can't happen. We've got there was a scramble play on a busted coverage. The receiver turned up the field, got behind us, and we weren't able to tackle him to the ground. That can't happen. This can't happen at this level of football against good opponents. And really did some decent things better in the second half. And then once again, the 2-minute drive, we gave up some easy completions. We missed a tackle. We didn't guard it running back out of the backfield on a blitz. Just a lot of small things that can't happen on a 2-minute drive that is disappointing, because they had some good moments on defense, but there were some key plays that were not good, so we've got to get that fixed.
Can you talk about, too, the use of, I saw several times, 6 offensive linemen at once, and then I think on one of King's TD runs, you actually had Marcus Bowe in the backfield in motion as a lead blocker. Just talk about the evolution of and use of the line moving forward, and of course Marcus's skill set.
Well, like always, there's always plenty of improvement to make on offense, and making sure that we're gaining yards and scoring touchdowns. So, losing Garrett Miller was a concern, and we just got to continue to improve the other tight ends. But in the meantime, putting a bigger blocker in at tight end in situations was beneficial. We've got to continue to utilize that. Short yardage. There's a couple things we got better at. Red zone scoring, short yardage situations. So that was good to see. We just weren't able to finish the game on offense and take advantage of that. But yeah, on short yardage in the goal line, we had not only an extra tight end in, but also, an extra tackle in. I probably rephrased that wrong earlier too, but an extra tackle in, and then we put an extra tackle in, a fullback in Marcus Bowe, used him as a lead blocker, and was able to walk in the end zone. So those are the things that we're going to have to be good at as far as coaches, of making sure that there is an element and a package of the ability to get bigger bodies in to knock people off the ball and run the football.
What's your feeling on playing FCS opponents, Jeff? This will be Purdue's first since 2016.
Well, I don't think we've done it since I've been here, but we play the teams that are on schedule, and you got to respect all your opponents. They all play good football. You saw this weekend there were a lot of FCS opponents that were really close to winning the football game against really good teams. It wasn't against not very good teams. These were against good teams. So there's a lot of good football played out there. We respect our opponent. We respect all levels of football. If we don't improve and find ways to get better, then we're not going to win. That's just how football works at every level, and we've got to really work hard this week to improve and get better.
I asked Charlie after the game just about punt returning, and he says it's his call if he wants to return a punt or not. I think he was only credited with 1. Fair call. I want to say maybe 4 or 5. I mean, is that something you discuss with him? Does he have the green light? Is it at his discretion if he wants to run a punt back or not?
Well, I tell you what, I think Charlie actually got winded and tired. As he looked back, he has free reign to return any punt that he wants. He probably caught the ball more than we thought he would. So I don't know if that's because he was tired. I don't know if he felt some pressure coming at him. There were things on the return unit that we need to block better, and we need to find ways to eliminate that first man and second man down that gets in his way. So working hard with our corners on the gunners, something we worked hard on, but we're not good in the game, and they got down there too fast. So figuring out ways to either do that better, or use a different technique, sneak somebody out to double the gunner later to allow the first guy to be blocked. We've talked about even multiple returners to set up that first and second block, because that's really the key. I think if we can give him just initial space, he can make good runs, and we were not able to do that effectively. And they did have a good punter. He punted it well, he punted it high, punted it long, so that probably affected it also.
Jeff, every team's different, but how do you go about the process of getting this team to finish?
Well, it's something that every team works on. We work on it. We, as you saw, I thought we could have overall, and we've talked about it, played even harder at times and finished plays all across the board, offense and defense and special teams. And I didn't think we finished 100% of the play on every single play, and that has to happen because you're going to get beat, and you're going to have lapses where you have missed tackles, or you let up on offense and you don't finish drives. So those are things you work on. We want to finish the game on offense. We weren't able to do that. We got the ball with 6:27 on the -31. And we're always going to be aggressive. So at the time, we're up 3. They have 3 timeouts. We're trying to win the game. We were able to get a 14-play drive going. 2 of them were penalties, so maybe 12 plays where we got 2 first downs, which was great. Then we got another first down that got us in field goal range that got called back with a chop block. And then that set you at 2nd and 25. So that kind of stopped that, but we were able to run, move the ball. And then we got it back with 4:28 on the -23. And got a first down. And then on 2nd down, that's when we got to scramble through it to Payne. That the call was overturned, which obviously if we catch it, we're in field goal range and the game's probably over. We had Payne wide open, but we had pressure in Aiden's face. Love to set in there and throw it because they busted the coverage. It probably would have been a touchdown, but we didn't. And then you get to 3rd and 6, and we have a corner out that's about as open as we got it the whole game that we got to complete. So we weren't able to finish being aggressive, and that's you're not going to win the game. And then they drove all the way down the field and scored. So you look back and you say, what can we do different? And there's probably numerous things when it doesn't go well that we can do different. So we're going to continue to evaluate that and make sure. As you saw this weekend, there's a lot of games, a lot of stuff happens in the last 5 minutes, and we want to be smart, yet aggressive, and in the end, just whatever it takes to win a football game.
Aiden looked or appeared to be a little frustrated on the timing when the plays were coming in the second half. Were the plays getting delivered as you expected them to in a timely fashion?
Well, actually, that really wasn't until we got to that 6:27 mark when that happened. And while we were aggressive, we were trying to bleed the clock as well. So we were wanting the clock to run down to under 3 seconds before we snapped it. So that was probably some of it. It caused us one delay a game, unfortunately. But we were trying to use the clock in those situations. Before that, I don't think we had any problem getting the play and getting in late. It was, as we were trying to kind of work some clock. And, I think Aiden also, makes some really great throws. Was it his best game? No, I don't think it was his best game. It was the first game. We asked him to throw the football a lot. I thought there was probably 5 or 6 times he threw the ball way too early when he didn't have to. And especially when you're getting tight coverage, you have to allow your guys some time to get open. And I think he saw that as we watched the film. We've got to have more patience and poise in the pocket, and then cut it loose. He just was cutting it loose too soon at times. And when you have tight coverage, it's not enough time to get open. And that hurt us a little bit, but he made some tremendous throws at times. But he can play better, and I know he will.
You mentioned Marshawn earlier, but what does he need to do maybe to put himself into a number 2 type of receiver and a guy that you can depend on in the passing game?
Well, Marshawn has shown great glimpses. Unfortunately, he gets hurt a lot. He misses a lot of practice, and he's been hurt the entire camp, and he got hurt again a couple weeks before the first game. He missed practice. So that's been the main issue. He's always been injured. And we've talked about it even with him. And he has ability. He's got good size. And we just have to figure out a way for him as well, he's got to take it upon himself and us to try to manage it, but he's got to stay healthy. And, he had a slight hamstring that caused him to miss some practice. Didn't know if he was going to play. He was able to play, and he made some catches. He's big, he's strong. I just think he's just got to continue to work through that. But yes, we have him and some other guys that I think are close, but they just got to get out there and prove it on the game field. And Marshawn did do some good things in the game.
How did you evaluate the defensive line?
I'll tell you what, I think they played hard. It's kind of what we thought. There's a lot of guys we feel like we can put in the game. Is there anybody that stood out as just playing great? No, not yet. But we had a few glimpses here and there. I thought in the first half, passing lanes were way too big. So we've got to clean up either that in particular or even some of the calls we're making so that we're making sure that we're keeping lane integrity, because I thought the quarterback was able to scramble and step up and buy way too much time. And we've addressed that and looked at it closely. So there's some things strategically and schematically we can do better to help that. But I think they played hard. The second half they were much better, I thought, other than the 2-minute drive. And so there's promise there. Scotty got the 1 sack when he had great get off and really beat his guy off the ball. Prince Boyd one time got through the backfield just because of great get off. We timed up a blitz one time with Mike linebacker when he got in the backfield. But we just got to figure out more ways to get pressure, push the pocket, and figure out a way to get more sacks.
Going back to the spring, Sanusi Kane had hip surgery, and you didn't know if he could even get back for the start of camp. But he, Thursday he's out there playing and did well on special teams. But just his progress and his development through the offseason to get him back on the field for the opener.
Well, I wish we had more guys like Sanusi King. I mean, he's a warrior. He loves football. He can hit. He can tackle. He plays hard. He'll play through nicks and bruises. And, the surgery he had, is a tough surgery. And he's come back as fast as any of our guys. He's been able to practice injured. He's not 100%. He still goes. His strength is tackling and hitting and with no fear. One time on a scramble, he plastered too aggressively and then tried and turned up the field. So he's got to know the situation, too, because there was only 20 seconds on the clock. So we've talked about that. We had drills on it yesterday of being able to plaster in a scramble drill, but do it smartly from behind and make sure that you're not gambling too much. So that's been addressed, but overall, he gives us great effort. He loves football, and he's one of our fiercest competitors.
Does he stay in that rotation in the secondary now? And he's a versatile guy that can play safety and corner, right?
Yes, he is, and he will be. We have to manage him in practice a little bit because of his hip, but he's definitely in the rotation.
And is Nick Carraway a guy that maybe sees a few more snaps moving forward?
I think so. We were able to get him in some. He has that push and athleticism and strength that is hard to find. When you play a first game in particular, but then a first game against a really good opponent, you have to be careful that you don't expose him too much, just because he hasn't seen that type of talent that fast. But I thought he did some good things. We had the touchdown at the end where our linebacker didn't guard the running back and really Nick could have contained the quarterback a little better, but he was going so hard that the quarterback was able to kind of escape and buy time and back up. But he has a great motor, so he's got great promise. We just got to continue to school him up, but he's done a really good job.
Any other questions? Brian, up front.
How do you feel about your run game right now?
Well, I think for the first 3 quarters, we had some balance. We were able to hit some runs in there. The fourth quarter, we had a drive before we got the ball. It was 6 minutes left where we called 2 runs, and it was 3rd and 6. And then we didn't complete the pass, and that was a stop. So, we've got to just be smart. We've worked hard at it. I've got to be committed to it to make sure that, we want to score points and move the ball. And we've got to be able to run the ball in boxes that aren't suited to run it a little bit more when we have to. So we're going to continue to work at that. And I think we can do better.
When you look back on, as you said, not being able to close the game out on offense, is there anything this offense needs to show you in terms of its ability to, potentially do some more ball control type stuff, run the ball with a shorter passing game, anything like that? Do you feel comfortable with your offensive balance in those situations where maybe you have to play situationally a little bit?
Well, I feel comfortable definitely with the short passing game. At the time, they were committed to loading the box and pressing us across the board, so it's hard to get a whole lot of quick passing game in when they're doing that, because we tried that and they were draped on us and we didn't get any calls, whether it was pass interference or not. We didn't get any calls, so it was a matter of, if you're going to throw it, you're going to have to work up the field a bit more and get beyond them, because they were sitting on all the short throws. And at the same time, yes, you have to be able to run the ball as well and mix that in. So I just think continuing to have some mix and to make sure that we're scoring points. Like I said, we were probably over-aggressive at times last year in critical situations, and it paid off because we were able to move the football and finish games. In this situation, we were not able to finish it. So yes, you always look back and see what you could have done better. So yes, we want to get better at in critical situations, A, running the football, and B, creating, maybe the best way to put it is, the easiest completion we can through some picks and rub routes and some things like that in key man-to-man situations.
One thing I think you've always done here is you've played a lot of guys. What kind of gives you the confidence to put guys in who maybe haven't been through it as much as you do, and not be that coach that keeps his best or his first 22 out there to the point where, in the fourth quarter maybe they wear down a little bit?
Well, I think we've gotten better to this point. That we feel like we have some more depth that provides us the opportunity to do that. And we want to do that. We want to try to play as many as we can. We want to provide competition. We want to allow guys to go out there and just show us what you can do on the field. It's great to see it in practice. We got to show us on the game field. I do think we played more guys this first game than we had. I am always a little conservative the first game, just because it's the first game. And some guys are new, and you don't want to lose their confidence. I think we kind of heard T.J. Sheffield a couple of years ago when we stuck him out there, and he had some mistakes, and it hurt his confidence the entire year. So you got to just make sure you're not doing that. But we do have more depth. Like, we have receiver depth. We just have to, who's going to emerge as the next guy and the next guy. So we just got to continue to work through that. I think there's a little more depth on the offensive line, but who's going to emerge as difference makers and when in the key situation, these are going to be the 5 guys out there. There's more depth on the defensive line. Once again, okay, who's going to be your George Karlaftis or your DeMarcus Mitchell that you can count on to make plays. So that's kind of where we're at. But I think that you just got to continue to work through it, and you got to get on the field and show what you can do. And but I think a lot of guys will get opportunities to do that.
You mentioned earlier about getting Tyrone Tracy more involved. How do you foresee that looking here, not only Saturday, but the rest of the season?
Well, Probably, just utilizing more out of the backfield and at receiver, both spots. I just think he's a guy that is better when the ball's in his hand. We had a couple throws to him that weren't on the money. They were a little bit behind him, but you still like to figure out a way to make the catch. He'll tell you, be the first one to tell you that he'd love to make some of those catches, but it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. So we just have to get him the ball more. So, maybe not exactly like Rondell, but whether that's behind the line of scrimmage, whether that's lining him up in a certain spot, and figuring out a way to use others to get him open. I just think he needs some more touches, and that will help our team.
Jeff, is Abdur Rahman Yassin ready to play? And is Jamari Brown ready to start opposite Corey Trice?
Okay, so Abdur will be out for a while. He just doesn't feel like he's healthy enough. T. Denson will still continue to be out for a while. We had some other guys banged up, but those two for sure will be out for a while. We can talk about the corner position. We have three corners with experience in Reese Taylor, Jamari Brown, Corey Trice. I thought Corey Trice, for the most part, did a good job. He had the one defensive holding penalty that hurt us. Jamari Brown, for the most part, did a good job. He had another holding penalty that hurt us, and then there's one time he busted a coverage. He's got experience. Reese Taylor had a really good camp. It wasn't his best game. But we still feel like he's a really good football player. We had the one pass interference. We had the one offside. We had the one missed tackle. That hurt us. But sometimes he's to the field, and they were isolating one guy in the field, and that's not an easy job. So I think he'll work through it. Reese is a talented player that's had a really good camp. They just were able to make a few plays on him. So at every corner position, you're going to have some really good days and some plays that don't go as well. But those three guys are going to be in rotation for us, and we'll play a lot of football.
Is the Adams State transfer Bryce Hampton ready to get on the field?
So Bryce is getting better. We've utilized him at the nickel position, a little bit of safety, a little bit of corner, and he's the next man up. So he continues to get better, just kind of knowing the nuances of our calls and defense and offensive structure and going against the speed of the game. That's something we're continuing to work through, but I see him as the next man up, and he'll start to play.
Anything else? All right, thanks, guys. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, Jeff.